Hey everybody, thanks for joining us for Key Stage 2 SATS Information for Parents. Sorry we couldn't see you in school, but glad that you could come along now. First things first, what are the SATS? Well, they're a series of assessment tests that are taken by all Year 6 pupils at the same time in all schools up and down the country, so that schools and pupils' results can be compared to one another, and obviously so that the test materials can be kept confidential. So the aim of those tests is to measure both pupils' attainment at the end of the primary school to see how ready they are for secondary education, but also to measure the progress that they've made from the end of Key Stage 1 in their time at Portswood or whichever school they're in until when they leave at Key Stage 2. Key dates for you. The Key Stage 2 SATs will take place on the week of Monday the 9th to Thursday the 12th of May this year, and all tests take place in the morning. It's really important, if you can, that we get your children in school for those days so they can take the test. Rearranging them can be done. I'll come on to that in a minute, but obviously it's more difficult, more complicated to do, and it's much more straightforward if they can sit it with their peers, with the adults that are already organised to do that. So during SATS week, in order to give pupils their best chance to do their best, we ask you, can you make sure that every morning for the SATs they've had a good breakfast, that they've gone to bed early the night before, and then we get them to school on time, because although the tests start at a specific time, some of the warm-up events that will be happening, some of the things to get them ready to sit those tests and in the right frame of mind, happen from pretty early on in the morning of the test. So if we can get them to school on time, that would be really helpful. But also be positive and encourage them to do their best. And that's all we can ask of all our children, whether our own sons, daughters, or the children within our school, for them to do their best. So that's what you can do during that SATS week. If your child is ill during the test week, we ask that you let the school know as soon as possible. Your child will be able to retake a rearranged time of the test. However, we have to make sure that the materials remain confidential, and your responsibility in that is, if you've got a child that's off school, is to ensure they don't communicate with any other Year 6 pupils until they've returned and have completed those tests. Difficult in the modern age, but that's the expectation. We've even got guidance given to us on what to do if one of a pair of twins is ill and how they have to be kept separate if we want them to be able to take those materials. So if they're ill, let the school know as soon as possible in the morning so we can make the arrangements we need to make. And then you need to keep them non-communicative with the rest of Year 6 until they've come back to school and caught up with their testing. Okay. The week itself, it looks like this. On Monday, there's the grammar, punctuation, spelling test. The first test is the short answer paper that's 45 minutes long. The second test paper is the spelling test. It's like 20 spellings, read and dictated sentences, and that takes about 20 minutes. On Tuesday, we've got the English reading test, which takes place over an hour. Children are given 3 texts that they need to read, and then comprehension questions to answer on those. On the Wednesday, we've got 2 maths papers. We've got paper 1, the arithmetic paper, pure arithmetic questions, 30 minutes of time to do it. And then we have paper 2, which is the reasoning, the first of the problem-solving papers, and the children get 40 minutes to answer roughly 25 questions. On the Thursday, the final test, we've got mathematics, paper 3. Sorry, that's hidden underneath my head on this. But it's another reasoning paper, another 40 minutes. And once they're completed, the test week is over. There are no tests on Friday. On top of that, obviously, we need to assess pupils' writing. And the way that's done is pupils are given a teacher assessment grade for writing. And that's based on writing that's been completed in class. And there are 4 grades available for that. They are generally the ones that are given out. They are working towards the expected standard. Those children who are almost but not quite at the standard that's expected of a Year 6 pupil. They're pupils that are working at the expected standard of a pupil in Year 6 at the end of Key Stage 2, or a pupil that's working at greater depth within that standard. There are a small number of pupils that may be assessed as pre-Key Stage standard, which shows that the work that they're producing in writing is below the expectations for anywhere in Key Stage 1, and that means their writing is vaguely in line, broadly in line with writing that would be expected in Key Stage 1. That is completed against a set of published criteria for teacher assessment of writing, and that's how writing will be assessed, because it's quite difficult to do tests for writing. Once SATS weeks have happened, what happens next? Well, the papers are sent off for external marking. They're cut up and scanned in a machine and they're marked on screen by external examiners. No one from the school is involved in that at all. And then the results will be returned to school on Tuesday, the 5th of July. We will check that they've been put together accurately, and then we will report those outcomes to you on Friday, the 8th of July. We'll report them in both your pupil end of year academic report that we send out, but we will also send out a separate SATS results report so you can see the school's outcomes as well. So in each area, what you get is you get, for reading, maths and grammar, punctuation and spelling, you'll get a scaled score, which is a score between 80 and 120 will be given. The expected standard is represented by the score of 100 or more. So if you've got a child that's on 102, you know they've just passed the expected standard. If they're on 119, you know they're well past the standard. If they're on 98, you totally they're close to the standard. So you can compare your pupils' outcomes to that score of 100. A score of 110 or more is considered to be a high score. When we report back to you, we will also be reporting the teacher assessment for writing. And the scores will also be shared with the secondary schools. Secondary schools all use them in different ways. Some may use them to make a flight path for their expected progress to the end of Key Stage 4. Some may use them just as a benchmark to show where they are. Down to different schools, how they use them in different ways. You need to check that with your secondary school if you're interested. Lastly, sort of kind of things, how can you help to prepare pupils? Well, the most useful thing that we can do, we've said this a number of times, is make sure your child's reading every day, preferably with an adult, if they're a good reader on their own, but preferably with an adult. Encourage them to revise or practice. We're not asking them to kill themselves. We're not saying it's an expectation that you must. But doing any revision for any kind of examination is probably good practice, and a little bit of revision every day or 5-10 minutes at a time will help them to make sure they're in a good frame of mind to be ready. Learn the spellings. We send spellings home every week. If those spellings can be learned and more spellings can be retained, the chances are that when we're doing a spelling test of 20 random words, we might know some of them. And lastly, it's in red, it's partly hidden under my head, is don't panic, keep it in perspective. Children don't need a lot of pressure put on them to do these. They're just another task. And yes, they've been prepared for them. And yes, they are ready for them. But we do need to keep that in perspective. Nobody is going to be stopped from getting the job that they want in the future if they've not done well in their Key Stage 2 SATs. But it is a good reflection of where your child's learning is at this current time. Talking of revision, if you do want to help with revision, a couple of things you can do. If you go onto the internet and search Key Stage 2 revision for maths or English, or even BBC Bite Size SATS revision, the BBC Bite Size got loads of good little bits that can be done online. YouTube's got loads of Key Stage 2 revision stuff on. If you're more old school and you're looking for some paper and pencil methods for them, Waterstones, WH Smith, Amazon are your places of choice to go for those. And just look for anything that says Key Stage 2 SATS practice year 6. Make sure it doesn't say Key Stage 1 because that's what the test that the age 7 year 2 pupils take. But as I say, we're not expecting children to be working hours and hours at a time, but we are aware that some families and some children may actually want to practice. Obviously, if you've got any questions, come and find me, come find Mr. Head, Miss Hotston, Mr. Ward, Mr. Howie. We're more than happy to support you. Okay, thanks for watching. See you soon. Have a nice Easter if I don't see you before. Bye-bye.